Hello everyone, welcome back to another Top 10 Commander video. This time we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go over what is now a doable list. We have the top 10 best snow cards in the Commander format. Snow is kind of unique because it's the subtype for every card. So if you have a land, it could be a snow land. If you have an enchantment, it could be a snow enchantment. And I'm sure we're also going to get one day a snow planeswalker. But you have restrictions for these cards. You have certain requirements where snow mana has to be paid in order for you to get the most value. So I do have cards on here with that in mind, although we want more flexibility out of the best cards that are snow cards. So expect towards the top of this list to have something that's not as dependent on that strategy. Number 10, we have Svella Ice Shaper. This is a pretty cool card. You have the ability to essentially make a manalith, a token that can tap for 1 mana of any color. This is cool because you can just keep making them, you can keep ramping. And that ability is not something that's super powerful, but you do want to be able to get up there. You want to be able to get to that activated ability where you can tap, look at the top 4 cards of your library, and then cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. That's just something that's always going to be good when you get spells for free. Doesn't have to be a mandatory snow card that you play in a snow deck, which is why I think it deserves to be here on the top 10. Number 9, we have Morite or Marit of the Frost. Again, for most of these, it's just me guessing. We haven't really had a chance to play with a lot of these newer cards in 2020 and 2021, so it's really just about using judgment and past experience with other cards, and this is very similar to other clones. It maybe isn't as good as some that allow you to copy your opponent's cards, but this can be a copy of any permanent you have. Has the added benefit of entering with counters if it's a creature, and it also is a changeling, so it offers you that synergy if you're playing a tribal deck. If you're playing a changeling focused deck especially, I think the more that you can synergize with, the better chance a card has at actually seeing play in Commander. And then number 8, we have Icefang Coatl. This is a card that's even more focused on the snow-specific strategy. You do get a benefit with the Death Touch, but we have a good creature here nevertheless. You get good keywords. With Flash, it enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card. There are some snakes here, so you have these snow snakes, which tend to offer you some good card draw, which is pretty cool. I don't know about you guys, but I always like card draw. And then number 7, we have Draugr Necromancer. Now, the trigger alone is always going to be powerful. It doesn't really matter what the creature is, but whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, you exile that card with an ice counter on it instead. So regardless of what happens, that creature is going to be exiled, even if you're not able to cast it with your snow mana. But if you do have snow, which makes it more snow focused, you get to cast those spells with ice counters on them in exile, and you get to spend mana from snow sources as though if it were mana of any color. So it's very flexible. If you are playing a snow strategy, this is probably going to be one of the more effective cards in your game. Not only is stopping graveyard decks important, but you also get to cast those cards. So it's pretty cool, you're stealing their best stuff. And then number 6, we have what I believe is probably the best snow commander option if that's what you want to build. We have Yorn, God of Winter. Very simple, very easy to understand why this is going to be good. An attack trigger that untaps all of your snow permanents. If you're just playing a pure snow deck, that should be just about everything you have. While it's nowhere near as abusable as a Seedborn Muse, untapping your lands with things like Bear Umbra, that's always been good anyway. Now, the flip side here is Cauldring the Rime Staff, and the cool thing about these gods from Kaldheim is that you have 2 sides to work with. So you can make use out of this, which is a way to get back some snow permanents. You can even get your snow lands back. They do enter tapped, but it's a great way to recover late game. Definitely not a bad option to have on a commander. And then number 5, we have Artikar Valkyrie. I would say that the next 3 out of the 5 cards here that we have left, they're pretty much going to be some of the most underrated cards in the Commander format. Artikar Valkyrie just offers you some of the best reanimation in the format. It's a tap ability, but you can use it on any creature, so whenever a target creature other than Artikar Valkyrie dies this turn, you return that card to the battlefield under your control. So you can do this in response to a Doomblade, some kind of removal spell that destroys it. It could be in response to a board wipe, so you end up getting a creature back anyway. This is basically Safi Eriksdottir on a repeated activated ability. And considering how annoying she can be to deal with, I know for other reasons you can combo, this activated ability is still incredibly powerful. It's always surprised me how often I don't see it in commander decks that can take advantage of it probably better than the player realizes. And then number 4, we have Marit Lage's Slumber. I know, spoiler alert, Marit Lage is going to be a pretty big deal in snow. I don't see a ton of power in snow as a theme, so you should probably jump on the opportunity to get a 2020 out there. Merit Lage's Slumber is very similar to Dark Depths, where that's kind of the whole focus is that you get out your 2020 Merit Lage token. Well, Merit Lage's Slumber I still think is pretty good even if you aren't focusing immediately on getting to that Merit Lage token, because whenever it or another snow permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you get to scry one. Now, in a snow-themed deck, this is going to be pretty cool. Every permanent you play, every permanent you have enter, it's going to get you another scry. And then, mid to late game, whenever you get 10 snow permanents out there, you're going to get your 2020 flying indestructible creature. So it's always been a fun thing to accomplish getting your 2020 Merit Lage token, but this is arguably even easier. You don't have to use a 2-card land combo, and I think it's just a little bit more casual friendly for that reason. And then number 3, this and the next card I think are just 2 of the most underrated cards in Commander, period. But number 3 is Thermopod. I know, right? You probably didn't see this coming unless you've been one of those people who you were looking for a good sack outlet in red that wasn't just an artifact. Well, this is one of the few sack outlets in red where it's not really tribal specific. It's not like a goblin. We have some goblins that can sacrifice other goblins. This just says you can sacrifice any creature and add red to your mana pool. It's not even super specific to snow. It's just a snow creature. If you pay 1 snow mana, you can give it haste until end of turn, which a 4/3 is not really that big of a deal. You don't need to give it haste. But that sack outlet is just insane. It gives you colored mana. If you are playing a deck that's more graveyard focused, let's say you're playing a Rakdos deck, and you need to sacrifice, you have a way to sacrifice that will give you red mana. Red has a lot more ways of ramping up, of course, but this is a lot more than just getting to the mana. This is about having a free sack outlet. You don't have to pay any mana to do it. And then number 2, we have Orin Frostfang. Now, if you're a fan of the older card Orin Viper, this is essentially just Orin Viper times 2. It's even better. You're going to pay your 5 mana, but you're getting even more value. You're getting a Coastal Piracy with Death Touch, so all your creatures are going to be able to swing, likely uncontested. I don't want to block too many Death Touch creatures. I don't tend to do that. So feel free to attack me with everything and get a bunch of card draw. That's really all that Orin Frostfang is. It's just a really good value creature in green. Again, super underrated, probably the most underrated card on this list. That kind of card draw, in addition to the Death Touch, it's good for Snake Tribal. You can make that a thing. Again, super surprised I don't see it as often as I see many inferior cards in green. Now, before I go on to number 1, we do have some honorable mentions here. We have Boreal Druid. You're more likely to see it in competitive EDH, believe it or not, because a lot of those decks are about getting to Food Chain. And if you have a mana dork that can tap for 1 mana, often that's one of the most important things that you can do in the game. Cold Steel Heart is also pretty good for mana. I expect to see it if you're able to untap your snow permanents with Yorn, something that's definitely going to be useful. We have Narfi Betrayer King, which I think is more just old school Magic. Being a lord that can give your creatures +1/+1, you can bring him back. Not really super involving, but it's something I think could be cool. So going on to number 1, we do have the card Dark Depths. Now, again, getting to that 2020 pretty early on is one of the most powerful things you can probably do in these decks if you're going for a snow deck. While it's nowhere near the kind of win con that it is in a 60-card format, an indestructible 2020 flyer is never a thing that people are just relaxing around. It's always going to put in some work, and it is easy for you to get out something like a Thespian Stage in landfall decks. A lot of landfall decks can get to those specific lands pretty quickly and efficiently. And some combos just specifically are intended to get both Dark Depths and Thespian Sage out there. So that land that becomes Dark Depths doesn't have any counters on it, so you have to sacrifice it and you get your Merit Lage. Just a really cool combo. It's always been one of the cooler combos, and it just sees play in so many decks because why not? If you can get 2 lands out there, worst case scenario, you just have a land that's not going to tap for whatever mana you want. So it's a low risk, but if you can pull it off, it can oftentimes be pretty devastating. So anyway, let me know what you think about the 10 best snow cards in the Commander format. Let me know if you're looking forward to building a snow deck. It's something that's on the horizon for myself. But anyway, you all have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next time.